Hello, everyone. For this assignment, I used the BRFSS data set, which is basically just a giant public health data set from the CDC. So I focused on kind of my two topics were physical activity and health perception. And I looked at kind of how many adults actually met physical activity guidelines. So things like, I think the Department of Health and Human Services, it's 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week. Um, so I looked at that. So how many people are actually meeting those guidelines? And then I also looked at how people describe their health. So kind of their perception, and the data set that I used had that on a sliding scale, kind of from excellent all the way to poor, um, which was helpful because it just kind of gave me context about how not only are people actually moving, so are they like actually meeting those guidelines, but how they're experiencing their health. Like, how is, if I work out 4 times a week, do I perceive myself as a healthy person? So the data showed, and I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit with our data software that we had linked. So I figured it out. I feel confident now, but it was a little bit of a challenge for me to understand what I was looking at. But once I figured it out, and I did use ChatGPT to help me, like we were able to. So that helped a lot, and I could kind of figure out what I was looking at. But after I processed everything, the data showed that about half of adults are meeting the activity guidelines, but people, so there were two groups in particular that really dropped. So those are people with low incomes and women. So at the same time, the mixed methods was helpful because not only were people with lower incomes and women not meeting the guidelines, like that's kind of where the guidelines dropped off, they also reported their health between fair and poor. So that's where kind of the mixed methods part actually really helped me, because the quantitative data kind of gave us those broad patterns. Like, yes, you know, people with lower incomes and women just aren't meeting guidelines as often. But the qualitative piece, which had them, like self report their own perception of their health, that's where I was actually really able to look at not only the statistical data, but the lived experience, challenges, resources, things like that. So that's really where the mixed methods approach helped me understand the data that I was looking at. Because everybody was in the same boat where it was just kind of an Excel sheet of data. So being able to kind of dive into it. And I did use JASP, or JASP for the analysis. And then I used ChatGPT just to kind of help me find themes. And the combination of these tools, like I said, I struggled with it at first because I've never really done anything like this. But once I figured it out, it made the process so much easier and more insightful than having to look at every single line of that data. So for me, the whole experience, it really emphasized just how important it is to look at not only the what, but also the why. And especially in health and fitness research, it just adds a lot of rich context to why we see certain trends. It also made me just think more deeply about how I would approach coaching and interventions in the future with different populations. And I also just thought it was a really good exercise for me to learn how to process data like that using that type of software, which is something, like I said, I haven't done before, but I plan obviously to do for my dissertation work. So I was excited. I got some practice with that and got to kind of figure out what I was doing. But yeah, I really like this assignment. I'm looking forward to hearing how everyone else did and watching everybody else's videos. Thanks, everyone.